Spoilerin time, folks. This is the show where we take the hard work of Cordkillers, where we're figuring out what are the devices and what are the services, and then we watch stuff and we talk about it here. This week, we're going to talk about Barry, Season 3, Episode 6, Hacks, Season 2, Episodes 5 through 8, Better Call Saul, the mid-season finale, Season 6, Episode 7, and the first 3 episodes of Obi-Wan. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Yeah, but most importantly, we have Kent Fleur joining us. How are you, Kent?
Hey, I'm doing great. Good to be here.
Let's start with Obi-Wan, episodes 1 through 3. This is half the season already. They gave us the first 2 episodes on a Friday, and then they gave us the 3rd episode on a Wednesday. We had a Memorial Day weekend, so we're talking about all 3 of them. So halfway through Obi-Wan, Brian, I know you were kind of, maybe, I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but hoping for more?
Kent, what did you think of Obi-Wan?
I've been enjoying it. I know anybody that knows me knows that I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I forgive a lot of the like corniness and so forth. Obi-Wan Kenobi is giving me pretty much what I expected. A lot of nods to the prequels. I don't know. I am digging it. I like the Inquisitors being live action now because that was a thing that started in Star Wars Rebels. That's all pretty cool. I was really surprised to see the little girl playing Princess Leia. I was not expecting that at all. I know a lot of people online have a problem with her being there, but I feel like every Star Wars property introduces a child character. And Leia's the one for this one. And I personally don't have a problem with her. I think she's delightful. I think she's a snarky little girl that does a pretty good job of what I would imagine Princess Leia to be like as a child. So I'm digging it. I like the Darth Vader appearances toward the end of episode 3 there. I don't know. I'm really curious to see where this goes for the second half of this season, but so far I don't really have any complaints about it.
I'm doing a show called Let's Talk About Star Wars with Jenny Josephson and Garrett Weinzierl. So if you want to know my full like lore nerd appreciation of these episodes, go there. I feel like I always feel this way when we talk about Star Wars on Spoilerin time, that I'm going to end up being a hypocrite by being too nice to it over there and too mean to it over here.
Oh, good.
But I'm enjoying it. I like the lore part of it. I love the like filling in the gaps part of it. I think the way they're treating Obi-Wan as someone who 10 years on is disaffected and shattered and suffering trauma at the loss of his friend rings true with me. I like the saucy little Leia. I thought that was a great surprise and a great reason why Obi-Wan, who should never have left Tatooine, would be tempted to leave Tatooine. That said, there's some slow parts in here, and there's certainly a lot of parts where you're like, well, wait, why would they do that? You know, why would he abandon a Jedi? I know he's supposed to be post-traumatic, but show me a little more of that sort of thing. So Brian, I know you don't want to trash it, but you also want to trash it, but you don't want to really trash it. So just don't be afraid. Tell us what you think.
Well, the real star of these first 3 episodes is we finally get to go on a tour of places besides Tatooine. That's the only way this truly could have failed for me, is if we're just in a cave with Obi-Wan, and they didn't do that. They got us out of there as quick as they could. We know canonically that Luke vaguely knows about Ben Kenobi and gets about, 7 hours of training and suddenly is a Jedi Knight by the time they get to the Death Star. Those are hard constraints to work with, but I think within those constraints, they do a good job of taking us to crazy, nutty, outer rim places. And I love seeing Kumail Nanjiani as a fraudster who's trying to do the right thing by pretending to be a Jedi and so on. The metaphor is a little bit heavy about the Nazis looking for the Jedi after the war. But that's fine. This is a great visual treat if you give it about 60% of your attention.
So what could they do to get your other 40%?
Oh, literally tell me anything that would be surprising at all. For example, not make Leia wedged into the exact mold that every single Disney princess is into. Oh, here we are in a medieval hierarchy. Boy, you sure go against the grain, little girl. You're probably going to turn out to be something wonderful. I would love to see Obi-Wan Kenobi. I know your job is to protect Luke Skywalker. I'm sorry, but that debt has come due. What? I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm great at two things: sitting in ships waiting for things and sitting in caves waiting for kids to grow up. Sorry, you're going to have to do something, I don't know, different. Take me to the other side of the galaxy. Let me see some crazy Obi-Wan Kenobi kicking ass stuff and bring me back. That's what I would have loved. But you know what?
But that is what you got. I mean, what you described is, I think a lot of people would say, like, yeah, he went to the other side of the galaxy to the city planet and he kicked some ass.
Sure. You know what they say is, it's not all you can eat, it's all you care to eat. And I think a lot of people were full, not me.
Gotcha. So
I
you
think
would
Brian
have liked to
wants
see more adventure Kenobi rather than on the run Kenobi.
Literally
That's what-
anything other than sitting around and waiting for stuff to happen, Kenobi. Is that really what Obi-Wan Kenobi was? Was a guy who sat on the ship during all of the prequels and a guy who sat in a cave in the intervening 20 years until Luke Skywalker grew up?
I will buy that that's who he is now. I will also agree that they could have communicated that why he is that now in more ways than they did.
Like,
I will buy that he's broken, that, you know, but you gotta maybe do a little more work.
I would like to see him do something wildly irresponsible that causes him to stoically decide to stay in a cave for 20 years or whatever.
Did y'all watch the previously on that they made in the first episode?
Oh, you mean the prequel movies?
Okay. I just because for me, there's a lot of exposition dumping. There's like, look, I'm just gonna say, if this character's backstory is that he let a lot of little children get got, I need that to be more than yada yada yada. I need to see that again after the previously on. I feel like, because I like legitimately, I am out of the loop on Star Wars. I don't know who Ben Kenobi. I don't know what this guy is doing, and so like, you can't yada 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 me into liking this guy. So that's where I'm at. Is I can't follow because I don't know what any of this is.
I don't know how much of a problem it is because so many people have seen Star Wars, but you are supposed to be assumed to know why Kenobi is not at fault for the younglings getting assassinated, and they don't explain that in that previously on. You're right.
Yeah.
Step 1: never call them children. Always call them younglings. You know, like natural parents often do.
Like animal.
I have 3 younglings, aged 9, 14, and 18.
These are my birth spawn.
Birth spawn would be better.
crotch droplings.
They can use sword crystals and save the world with their midichlorian.
I do like the way they depict the Empire at this point. And I thought the truck driver character, well, he ended up like, oh, it turns out that he was going to turn him in the whole time, which felt like a little bit of a disappointment. I loved the idea that there was just this happy guy who's like, hey, things seem to be okay for me, so I don't care. And I'm happy to help the working stormtrooper, you know, get a ride. And the Empire sure has brought some order. Like, I thought that was a really interesting take for a few moments there.
I would like to see more of that. Maybe that's part of why earlier I was wishing for just a full-on like pro-Thrawn centric series is because outside of that, it ends up feeling a bit judgy and our weird culture war, red state, blue state schizophrenia that we're having right now.
Yeah. I would have liked it if he hadn't turned them in. If he had just been a non-entity and like, yep, some people are, taken in by the Empire.
And other people are just doing the best they can every day, and this is their little gift to the world.
Yeah. Kent, what about you? Any other thoughts on Obi-Wan?
I think Brian would love to have a whole series about the Jedi con man.
Oh yeah, no, I would watch nothing but Kumail Nanjiani. I would watch 100 episodes of that.
He took me out of it because he's Kumail Nanjiani.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, now we're watching Kumail Nanjiani instead of watching a Jedi. I did like that he ended up having more to him than it appeared. I thought that was a good take.
Well, and that he measured his value as a human based on what his bounty was at, and I liked it a fair bit, but more than most people would expect.
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing what they have for us for the next 3 episodes. I mean, I don't know. I'm enjoying it so far. I don't love it or hate it. I'm liking it.
I do like the Obi-Wan Leia buddy comedy. You're not wrong about her fitting the mold of every Disney princess. I don't mind that. I'm fine with that. Would it have been more fun if they had broke the mold? Yes, totally agree with you. But I'm still cool with it.
Plus, also, that's the only move they had because it's very clear per canon that Luke has, never encountered or hung out with Ben Kenobi or whatever. But
they've never met.
Okay. Yes, correct.
I mean, they may have met, but the story is that Owen Lars, who is Luke's stepfather at this point, who you meet, doesn't like Ben Kenobi, and keeps Luke away from him.
I'd watch that show.
about a creeper who's always trying to convert your child to a religion.
We said we don't want any. Slamming my space door.
Do it mockumentary style.
Crusade, Lou.
I want to give me Star Wars money. Let's make that.
Two of them show up on bicycles with ties, and they're like, have you heard?
All right. Any other thoughts on Obi-Wan 1 through 3?
Door's still open. I've not disliked anything. I just wish I was surprised by much.
Gotcha. I think that's fair. It's not a terribly surprising. I think I was surprised that they brought Leia in and then immediately was disappointed in myself for not seeing that ahead of time. And like, well, yeah, of course. That is Obi-Wan seasons 1. Episodes 1 through 3. Let's talk about Better Call Saul, the finale, ? Mid-season, whatever. We got more parts coming. But it does have a finale feel in that we see the resolution of Kim doing a U-turn on the freeway and heading back to help Jimmy / Saul figure out the big con. And then we have the apartment scene where everything changes.
Kent, what did you think?
Okay, Lalo Salamanca, scariest character ever. Oh my God,
he's just a nice guy until he shoots you in the head.
Wow, yeah, he is like next level villain because he can play the I'm a charismatic, really cool guy. And just turn on you in a second, has no problem murdering or doing any number of terrible things. The whole thing with Howard, man, I was into the buildup of what is this elaborate prank that Jimmy and Kim are playing on Howard. This is going to be a lot of fun because Howard's kind of a dick, and I want to see him eat crow or whatever. And then the culmination being what it was so shocking to me that after that episode ended and how it ended, I turned off the TV and just sat there for 5 or 10 minutes in shock of what I had just seen. And it took me a while to really process that because I spent, what do we got, 5 seasons or whatever, that long, more or less hating Howard, only to discover that I didn't actually hate him. he just annoyed me, and I'm really sad about his ultimate fate.
Tom,
Mhm.
I loved this episode so very much. It was a wonderful reminder of what makes Vince Gilligan an incredible storyteller. He managed to give us all of the satisfying explanation as to what their plan was. And it was only on my second viewing of it that I saw that Saul and Kim were disengaged because they were too busy having sex as they listened to everything melt down on the phone. So later, when Hamlin shows up and says, do you get off on this? It was only on my second viewing that I was like, yes, they do. We just watched it.
That that hadn't fully sunk in for me until you just said it. So yeah, no, that's perfect.
And then on top of that, after the delightful feast of understanding their plan, we also have, sorry, I deeply respect Lalo. He is somebody who does the hard work. He sat in a freaking ditch for 4 days and did the recon. I respect him the way I respect Mike Ehrmantraut, where it's like he's going to do what it takes to do the thing. He calls and realized the line is bugged by the chicken man, calls back, gives a false narrative, even though he knows it's upsetting his uncle or whatever. And then Vince Gilligan says, and we're done with all that silliness. And now, starting right now, everything that came before is gone. It's great that you've met Kim Wexler. It's great that you've met Lalo Salamanca. Oh, did you not notice that neither of them were in Breaking Bad? Wonder what's going to happen. Question marks.
Yeah. And I can't add anything else to that. The fact that he gave you a perfectly satisfying, would have been fine if he ended right there, false ending, right? And then raised the stakes with something that is not, to my way of thinking, easily predictable, but with lots of arrows pointing to the fact that, okay, you can now see 100 different paths in which Lalo and Kim don't show up in Breaking Bad, and none of you know, but none of you but Vince Gilligan and the people who shot those episodes know which one it's going to be, and I love that.
Yeah,
I
am super scared.
Wait. Just now, you saying those words, Tom, made me consider paths that were not obvious, like Lalo saying, I want out. Let me help Kim escape or whatever. Like,
or Kim coming up with the compelling way to win over Lalo and help him to do something like.
This is the beauty of the story and the storytelling is that any of them are on the table, and I would buy any of them. They're all
because
earned.
They're all deep. They've all been built up deeply enough that you'll buy certain things. You know that Kim Wexler is both ruthless, creative, and incredibly intelligent.
Yeah.
And obviously Lalo as well.
Okay. If I were Vince Gilligan, I'd be thinking, you know who I want to do 6 seasons of next? And it would be either Kim or Lalo. And we're about to find out which one.
Either of those, for sure. Yeah. So part of me is really afraid for Kim, but also like I believe she survives because I think the black and white scenes that we've seen before are kind of building to Jimmy is going to reunite with Kim. At least I'm hopeful that that's where it's going. Lalo. So when we first hear about Lalo in Breaking Bad, it's the first time we see Saul Goodman, and he's freaking out like, "Oh my God, did Lalo send you?" And that leads me to think that Lalo's not going to die. Lalo is still somewhere out there. So I don't know. I mean,
why else would Jimmy look over his shoulder?
Kent,
yeah.
We don't get the endings we deserve. Oh, wait, we do. Sorry. We don't get the ones we want. We get the ones we deserve.
Right.
I don't know.
And
we deserve a bad ending?
I can't.
Ooh. remember that we were very carefully told that Kim Wexler is the daughter of a con woman and knows how to get out of tight situations and how to fool people. Uh, we have been shown her toughness in other situations as an adult. And yes, the false narrative that I was believing until this very moment was, and they showed us that to show why she would be so good at this con with Jimmy. But it also shows that she has long experience in dealing with extraordinarily shaky situations like the one we left them in at the end of this episode.
Also, like, just shouts out for the 30 seconds spent extolling the virtues of the Canon XL2. Yeah, that was the equipment worship of that era was chef's kiss.
And the photog who's like really like, no, but this is the most important thing to talk about right now. And you're like, yeah, I know to you it is. And I respect that, but we don't have time for that right now.
It's great.
What about the actual D-Day incident? That was so great to see. Like Howard
I know, right?
do the thing, and like we called it. Like a lot of this stuff we had talked about in previous weeks, and still seeing it in action, seeing it not uncut, but seeing it in the room,
unvarnished.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, and plus also
seeing
like
Howard
that's
know exactly what is happening, but unable to escape the trap.
Being exactly right.
Yeah,
that was the thing.
100%.
100%
He's
right.
always been 100% right. Even up until the moment he said, "What? Do you just get off on this?" Like that's incredible to me.
What are you gonna do? Shoot me in the head?
Yes.
Yeah.
Howard, why'd you have to be so right in the end? Man, when is it coming back?
Just a couple
July
weeks.
15th, July 16th, something like that. Yeah.
July
All right.
Something, yeah, mid-July. Yeah.
I hope every one of the remaining episodes is in black and white. That's all I care about.
It's all just at the Cinnabon in Nebraska.
Yep.
All right. Any other thoughts on Better Call Saul?
No, it's great.
All right. It's really good. That is Better Call Saul season 6, episode 7. Kent, I know you haven't watched Hacks or Barry, so we're going to let you go, but thanks so much for hanging out with us. Remind folks again where they can find what you do.
Yeah, this was a ton of fun as always. Thank you guys for having me again. Ritualmisery.com. We do a monthly show about nerdy topics. We have a guest and we talk about whatever. A recent episode we talked about NASA's Artemis program with Richard Gunther. A lot of fun. We also have dcstreamathon.org, where we talk about the Diamond Club New Year's Eve Streamathon, the big event that we do every year. I encourage folks to check that out.
All right, man. Go check it out, folks. Thanks again, Kent. It was great talking with you.
All right. See you guys next time.
Let's talk Hacks, season 2, episodes 5 through 8. These are the final 4 episodes because as they do often with HBO Max shows, they give you 2 at a time. And since we had 2 weeks since our last episode, we're finishing up the whole story. Brian, I know you loved this. Tell us what you loved.
I watched them all twice, and I loved them so much that I hope it comes back. But this will sound weird. I also loved them enough that if this is it, it was perfect. It is a perfect dissection of independent creators who are taking responsibility for their own content, who end up in places like Vegas or at the state county fair or whatever, versus the machinery of Hollywood. And unlike Barry, which we'll talk about next, it's very clear whose side we're on, and I love everything about it. It stood up to 2 complete viewings of all 4 episodes. I'm just gonna gush. To be honest, I want to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, I have to say, in a smaller way than Better Call Saul, Hacks pulls off the same trick of leading you to think, okay, so obviously there's going to be a fight between this woman that Deborah screwed over but they'll figure it out. And instead, they very convincingly have the woman go, "You think that's why I got out? No, it had nothing to do with you, Deborah. You're so conceited. I got out for my own reasons." And they pull that trick over and over and over again, till the point where when Deborah tells Ava, I'm firing you now for your own good," I I half suspected there was a knife in her hand, or some other trick was going to happen. And that time it was like, no, that is what needs to happen. That is what's good for Ava, and she should go off on her own. And Deborah is doing her a favor, and Deborah knows that, and Ava kind of knows that, but needs the push. It was a beautiful scene, and because of it, I don't want them to do a third season. And in the behind the scenes that they show afterwards, they basically confirm that they have a third season in mind, and that they're going to make it.
That's so interesting. Because,
Well, not just a third season, even. They were like, we love these characters. We've got a lot of ideas for these characters.
well,
Exactly.
and,
So they would keep going. And I'll be honest, I loved this ending. I doubt that they would make a third season I wouldn't watch and wouldn't enjoy. But right now, in that moment, I was like, no, this is a perfect ending. Ava goes off into her career, and Deborah now takes what she's learned, and has a graceful end to her career, and we're good. We don't need to know more about them.
I want to hear Bryce's take, but before we get there, I just need to get it out. I am all in on Force Ghost Deborah Vance giving tutorials to Ava as she, for the first time, goes from tweeting her funny thoughts to actually standing on a stage and realizes just how different it is to be boots on the ground versus, ethereal thoughts. Bryce, what about you?
I think the show's really interesting because I feel like they didn't mean to have two main characters, but I feel like Ava is pretty much as much of a main character as much as Jean Smart character is.
Deborah Vance.
Deborah Vance, which is great, which is kind of great. You don't always see you don't see a lot of shows that give a lot of space to the second character to be a kind of main character, right? You think of like 30 Rock, right? Like 30 Rock's had a bunch of main characters, but it's Liz Lemon's show. And so I don't know. That was like a very refreshing thing by the end of it. I kept feeling like, oh, this will be like that thing on a bunch of other shows where there's definitely one person who was involved in like the putting the show together who is like the number one character. And then there's also a second character. Like they felt very equal footing, which was refreshing. And then it's just like, it's actually funny and it's actually really well written, which is very difficult to do, I think. So yeah, great show. And I also don't want another season. I thought it was just right. They avoided all of the mistakes.
Wrong, but I'm with you. I don't think I want one. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe when I see another season, I'll change my mind. But the one thing that I would like more story is Jimmy and Kayla.
I was really pleased with those
Kayla
developments.
Through these entire seasons, I have been appropriately annoyed by Kayla. That was her job. That was her character. And that was a great dynamic with her and Jimmy. And then they grew her.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave her depth, which they didn't need to do.
And they
only do if you're going to do a third season, I think.
They also gave Jimmy spine, which he didn't have to begin with. And they confirmed it when, spoiler alert, somebody dies during the show and he waltzes in after a pregnant pause and says, "He's fine, everyone. He's fine.
It's going to be okay."
And very clearly, Deborah Vance knows that dude is dead as a doornail. And Jimmy is the best person on the planet because the show must go on. Which
I think subtly, again, they didn't need to spell it out, is why she sends Janet away when Ming-Na Wen's character comes in and wants to have a victory lap at the end.
Yeah.
The casual moments are so great where she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Are you busy?" It's like, "No, I'm just putting shrimp underneath his pillows. What's up?"
I guess if they give me a continuing trajectory for Jimmy and Kayla, helping both Deborah and Ava, which is the uniting force, I'd be interested in finding out more about that, because if Kayla can grow but remain consistent, that would be a feat.
Yeah, and on top of that, I'm not interested in whether or not Deborah and Shooter McGavin end up connecting with their on again off again thing.
That was fun to see.
It's kind of sweet that like they only dropped hints about. Oh, and for the record, this whole season was such a delight. Everything from references to showcases that get you into the college circuit to life on a tour bus, and there really is one rule, and it's no number twos. Like clearly the writers knew my life, and I appreciate that.
Also, that brief moment with DJ where she admits that she hadn't heard these stories, and Deborah admits that she could never have told them to DJ. She had to have the audience to be able to tell them, but she was glad that she heard them finally. That was such a deftly written and believable scene.
Yeah. It was surprisingly sweet. It's great. It's great, and I disagree, Bryce. I want a million seasons of
I also
this.
want more Josephina. We
Oh my
started to
God.
get more.
Loose Josephina is like the best, where
Right.
she just gets more and more interesting,
Ava's like, "You
and then they
never gossip."
justify it
She's
by
like,
saying
I
it's
always
like,
gossip. I just didn't trust you. Now I trust you.
yeah, no. What did she say? I
I had to
gossip
know
all
you
the
were gonna
time.
stick around.
Just just if I know you're going to stick around, and it's like
That's
you're
right.
a made woman. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Did
my
we
gosh.
did we get a button on Marcus's story? Because I
Not
feel
really. He basically stopped by his ex-boyfriend and said, "I want to talk." And
And
his
that was
boyfriend was like, "That's fine, but I'm not. I'm in a relationship." And Marcus was. I think that was the button of Marcus being like, "Okay, that's okay. I want to try to be friends."
Right.
And I
I'm
think that's as
willing
much
to
as we got
not.
there.
I'm willing to literally, figuratively, put a button on it and be done with this phase.
It was a little subtle, but I think that was the idea. Was like he is finally in a position where he could go and knock on that door and be
Yeah.
okay with that conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's more to tell with him and Miss Loretta and his mom and the whole.
Oh, that's right. His mom and his grandma. Yeah.
Plus, in those last 4 episodes, we even got over the last 2 weeks the transformation of her realizing that it can't all be boo-hoo for me, that it has to
Deborah?
be give and take. Like that's a very difficult threshold to cross. Of like, what's the worst thing that happened to you? I guess when I lost my mother to cancer, and she was like, and that pregnant moment where she was like, "Would you rather have your mom back or your own late night show?" And he's like, "My mom back." And then in that pregnant moment, for her to say, "See, I can't relate," it was just like yeah, that was the moment they won.
Yeah, it was golden, and it was a believable revelation of like, why isn't the show working? Why isn't the show working? I cracked it. Yeah.
Yep.
And they didn't just make us sit through all of that.
Oh yeah.
Do you know, I was so glad
they
we
didn't
just
actually
were
do a
off the bus
45
one
minutes.
day.
Yeah.
We were just off the bus one day. End of story, next chapter. Love it.
Yeah.
You're right,
Yeah.
Brian. Let's make a million of these because, God damn. We almost had the bus season, y'all. We almost had a bus season.
That's the difference between Obi-Wan and Axe.
I don't know what.
They're still on the bus. Any other thoughts on Hacks?
No, nothing but love and thumbs up. It's excellent.
Love and Thumbs Up is a name of an autobiography. Season 2, episodes 5 through 8. That is Hacks. Let's talk about Barry. Season 3, episode 6.
Best of
I
the
was gonna be-
season, Tom.
I was
This
gonna
is
be
as
real.
good as it gets.
I was going to be real upset. I told this to Eileen. I'm like, if he's imagining this, if we're just going to be in Barry's hallucination because he's being poisoned the rest of this episode, I'm going to be real upset. And then they pulled halfway back. I'm like, okay, what if he's imagining it, but things are really happening that are, the guy that's in the car on the beach is actually there. It's just the Barry. I was like, all right, fine, Barry, I guess so. I thought that conversation was was poignant, where the guy wants to have revenge, but he's actually not a sociopath like Barry, and so he has to help Barry, even though he can't live anymore. I thought that was um, that that was a moment. It's not a moment I want from Barry though. I think that's the problem with this series. Is like I'm like, yeah, that's a very powerful moment. I was here for the ridiculousness of things. And this season is trying to be very serious, sometimes succeeding, like in that moment, and other times not. I thought Sally turning into Barry seemed really paper thin and obvious as she just gets shouty and quits and gets fired and all of that. It felt ridiculous in the wrong way to me. But like I said, Brian, I felt like this is one of the more interesting episodes this season.
Yes, and I'm not being coy or sassy when I say that. These are the two best episodes of the season. All of which I don't mind saying this is the least good season of Barry that has ever been made to date.
I did love that, and I can't remember any. I should open up this IMDb page so that I know the names. But the father of the detective is not taken in by Fuchs and takes him right to the police and tells him that story about getting into the head of his captor in Vietnam on the way there. I loved that series and the fact that he caught on to what was going on with Barry and decided to investigate that on his own. I think Jim Moss, that's his name. I think he is probably the most interesting character in this entire season for me.
So I watched the last 4 episodes of Hacks twice, and then I watched the last 2 episodes of Barry, and I was struck by Hacks. Clearly is mocking Hollywood and taking the side of the independent creator, somebody who's responsible for the their relationship to salt of the earth humans who love their stuff. Oh, by the way, spoiler for Hacks. How great was it to see Kyle Gass show up in Hacks? That was awesome. Whereas Barry was contrasting the vacuous nature of Hollywood against the real life and death issues of whether it be a hitman or a vet or whatever, and doesn't really present or make any kind of case for one being better than the other. And maybe that's what I'm missing this season.
Yeah. I think you're onto something there. There isn't another angle. There isn't a way out for Barry because one way is into the system, which is not. They're not trying to portray it as a good thing. They're trying to portray it as rife with hypocrisy, and the other way is to be a killer on the run, which they're not even portraying that as an option. Really, they're portraying that as his past that he doesn't consider to be an option. Then you have NoHo Hank go to Venezuela and get thrown in a prison cell.
I don't know what that cartoon is.
Disconnected from everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they'll tie it back in. I trust that they will, but I was not following that yet. I will say, Henry Winkler showed off his acting chops by being a very believably bad acting teacher again in the shooting of the master class.
The master class.
I caught myself going like, man, Gene Cousineau is just bad at this. And then remembering, no, it's Henry Winkler, who's actually very good at this, being bad at this. Like, that's kind of genius.
Yeah. As somebody about to teach a class, it sort of was not great for me to watch, but yes.
Oh, it's just an example of what not to do, right?
Oh, so all I have to do is not be
Gene Cousineau. You can do that.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure you can do that. I believe in you, Brian.
So throw away the bus.
Yes, throw away the bus. The writer's room stuff seemed heavy-handed. The sort of the miserable writer's room and the good writer's room.
Yes. I don't want to bag all over this. It's just
Yeah, same here.
like it just didn't click. Season 3 for me, none of it really clicked. This is the best of the season.
All right. That is Barry, season 3, episodes 6 and 7. Next time we meet, because we're no longer doing Better Call Saul, because we're no longer doing Hacks, it will be Barry, season 3, episode 8, Obi-Wan, episode 4, and the first 4 episode of The Boys. The Boys came out with 3 episodes this week, and we're holding on to talk about all 4 of the first episodes next time on Spoilerin.
So stoked.
Be with us then. Don't let your head explode. Until then, patreon.com/Cordkillers. You get these episodes early, and you get a few extra perks like After Talk, which we're about to record right now. So we'll see you next week. Bye.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.